in progress.
Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to this evening with Founder Institute's first event as we kick off our cohort 2. So first, let me introduce what Founder Institute is and what this event is about. So Founder Institute is the world's largest pre-seed accelerator based in the Silicon Valley that operates in over 200 cities around the world and has helped create 6,000 startups till date and funded to the tune of over $1.5 billion. The vision of the accelerator is to create businesses that are solving for some of the key problems that this planet is facing today, most of which are outlined in the UN Sustainable Development Goals. The Delhi chapter of Founder Institute took off last year with the vision to convert startup ideas into fundable businesses. And that is the title of the event for this evening, which is Convert Your Startup Idea into a Fundable Business. So let me tell you a little bit about the Delhi Institute. It is led by me, Anjali, and my co-director, Mr. V.K. Gupta, who's also here as the host. So we're happy to sort of work with the startups to work through this entire process. We believe entrepreneurship is a very lonely journey, and typically founders are young minds that are buzzing with these innovative ideas. At FI, we help hone these ideas into sustainable and scalable businesses that go on and get funded and make an impact in the world we live in. Our endeavor is to have more and more founders flourish by guiding them through a process of learning with accomplished mentors. So we have a whole panel of mentors, 100+ mentors who are experts in various domains, and also through a set of best practices and business tools and processes that can be applied towards creating a startup business. We are happy and extremely happy to share that many of the graduates from the first cohort have been funded already, and that is a testimony to the fact that investors have found their business, founders or entrepreneurs have found a business model, and investors have also believed in those models and put capital in them. You know, an IBM Institute study recently said that 90% of Indian startups fail within the first 5 years of inception. To found a startup actually means to take a high failure rate. That's a huge high risk of failure rate, sorry. 20% of businesses fail in the first year and 60% go bust within the first 3 years. So the first few years are absolutely critical for their survival. But once the startup has survived these first 3 to 5 years, which are the most challenging years, the odds of survival go up dramatically. And whilst it's said that failure is a great way to learn, but in the case of entrepreneurship, this can be a very taxing, time-consuming, and expensive process. Either one, you fail and learn the do's and don'ts and avoid the pitfalls that usually come with decades of experience, or the better way to learn is really to engage with successful entrepreneurs who've been there, done that. So on the bright side, the 10% of startups that do become successful obviously have been through that journey and know what it takes to survive these odds of failing. And it is in the early stages of startup, finding the seed funding is actually more than half the work. And whilst people believe that capital is a big thing, I think there's just so much more to creating a startup. So our message to the audience and the young aspiring founders is that a faster, cheaper, effective way to learn is by watching others who've sailed the same boat. And so we have 3 founders here who have been through this phase, founded a business model, which has been validated by customers first, and then found investor backing for capital as well. So getting past this stage is critical in order to make this business, any business sustainable and scalable. So let me invite the 3 panelists. First, we have Subhradeep Bhaumik, co-founder of Auntie Funks, which is a pan-Asian QSR brand based in Bangalore and Gurgaon. Hi, Subhradeep.
Hi, Anjali. Hi. Good evening. Thanks for having me here.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Next, we have Anisha Jyoti, co-founder of Language Curry, an Indian language learning app with a culture twist. Hi, Anisha, and welcome.
Hi, Anjali. I should say namaste.
Namaste.
Representing
Namaste.
language. And thank you again for inviting me.
My pleasure again. And finally, there's Dheeraj Sood, and very, very happily and proudly, our recent own Founder Institute alum, who is the founder of Esquire, who's trying to democratize insurance penetration in tier 2 and 3 towns. Welcome, Dheeraj.
Thanks, Anjali. Thank you, Mr. Gupta. Thanks for having me. Nice to meet you.
Okay, so great. All three of you, it's a pleasure to have you with us. More so since I've had the privilege to play some sort of a role in each of your journeys through these initial stages. So our session today is about advising a brand new set of prospective founders just starting off on their entrepreneurship journey, possibly with dreams in their eyes to make a big business at some point. So first, let me start by asking you to share what inspired you to become an entrepreneur. So any of you can start. Shubhradeep?
Yes, let me.
Followed by Anisha and Dheeraj in that order.
Okay. So what inspired me to take up entrepreneurship? I think, see, entrepreneurship is something, it's a bug, right? And if the bug bites you, you take the plunge. But yes, there are a few things which triggers it, and the things are probably either maybe a problem which you face in your life, in your daily life, or you see a gap in the market and you that triggers the bug in which is anyways bothering in your mind. For me, it was that yes, while I was working during my during my corporate stint, that when I had traveled to some of the Southeast Asian countries, I saw a genuine gap that existed in the market around Asian street food in a QSR. And I saw that, okay, in India, Chinese is so popular. So, and always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I mean, probably partly I come from a family, a rare Bengali family where everybody are entrepreneurs, my dad, my uncles. So that was always there. But I was also always clear that I will work for a few years, understand, because industry is very different from the academic school and college. So I was clear that I'll work and then probably do it. But when the gap which I saw and vis-a-vis wanted to be a food entrepreneur, so it's a combination of those things which finally I took the plunge. But yes, you can't design it, plan it in that way. But yes, do some level of homework before you finally take the plunge in terms of what my product will be, what the market is, and a few other homework.
Great. So it's a dream, but also it's marriage with a certain gap and opportunity.
Exactly. I think it's
the bug which keeps bugging you.
Yes, finally,
Yes.
it's a bug. It can't be logically 2 + 2 4 maths.
Yeah.
Yes, Anisha, what is it for you?
I'll take it up from the bug aspect. Like Shubhradeep said, it is essentially something that has hit you, that has bothered you on a personal level. To be very honest, that's where it starts from. And for me as well, my family immigrated to Canada when I was 17. And I saw that how NRIs are suddenly very patriotic when they move out of the country. They want to connect to the language. And India being such a culturally diverse and rich country, doesn't have a great language learning platform, or didn't have until Language Curry came about. And that bothered me for many years. And unlike Shubhradeep, I do not come from a family of entrepreneurs. So it took me many, many years to, take the plunge. But yes, that idea, or that that thought of creating something that unites Indian languages, stayed in my mind for many, many years. I think over 8-9 years, I had it in my mind. Of course, I was studying then, but there was always this used to come about that something needs to be done. Somebody has to do this. So that's how it is. In the right time, right place, and the right people you meet, and then it all comes together, and then you take the plunge.
Wonderful. So again, the opportunity that was inspiring. Yes, Dheeraj.
Again, Anjali, for me, size of the opportunity in the area where we are operating was very exciting. When it comes to financial services, not just insurance, but all aspects of financial services. When you look at India, we barely, even scratched the surface. So there is a long, long way to go when it comes to offering, financial services, especially in the areas where we are targeting, smaller towns, tier 3, tier 4, tier 5 cities and smaller. So again, the size of the market is something that inspired me. Secondly, because of my years of experience in this domain, as Shubhadeep also mentioned, I was aware of where the gaps existed and what could be explored to create the business into a very, very scalable business in the future. And thirdly, I've seen others do it. as well. So, in my earlier avatars, I've worked with very closely with promoters of other, listed companies as well. And I always, had this thing, that this guy has done it, why can't I do it? So it was a, bit of ego as well. So, that also, made me take the plunge because I've seen others do it and I thought, I'm also good enough to do it. So it's a combination of, various things for me.
Hmm. So a follow-on question that comes to me, I mean, actually it's very human, right? We all, as we live, we see a lot of ideas, gaps, opportunities in the market. And actually most people live with a plethora of ideas, but we just don't have it in us to actually commit to it, because it is a risk. And sometimes you also live in a comfort zone. So what's a final trigger which actually gets you to start believing that this is truly convertible into a business model? Was there a trigger like that? Because, even to founders that are sitting on the fence, they're mostly in that domain. Should I not? Is it worth it? Is it not? What kind of risk will it be? What kind of a journey will it be? And so on. So what's that trigger that kind of gave you that, that kick to say, hey, this is a great time, go for it?
Yeah, I can, start
Sorry,
with that.
Yes.
go ahead, Anisha.
So I think the trigger is when you come, when you realize, okay, this is something I want to take up seriously. And then you start talking about it. You speak to your family, you speak to your close friends, you speak to then, you speak to maybe your mentors or your colleagues if you're working. And then you start seeing, sort of, for me, that was the biggest trigger when people said, yes, this is something that could be interesting. You must work on it. Then you start from your close circle and then you move ahead to people who actually you think will, sort of use this product. So the early conversations, really is a big motivation for any entrepreneur to, but this is I'm saying the very first trigger. After this happens the market research and the more structured way of taking it up. But the early trigger is start from your close family because they are your best, they will give you the best feedback and the most unbiased feedback, and then move out and speak to a larger circle.
So Shubhradeep, you decided one day to give up your corporate job. What was that
Yes.
trigger when you said, "Nee, I'm going to chuck the job and commit to this"?
No, correct. I think I'll just take it from where Anisha left. I think she made a very valid point that yes, you, the idea is brewing in your mind, and which for me the entire 2014 was that phase, and a lot of secondary research happened during that time. But when the idea is kind of formed up, and then you start talking to your near and dear ones, and you choose your near and dear ones, it may be family, it may be friends, it can be some of the professional people also, and and you choose those people that some are who are eternal optimists and some are who are eternal negatives, because you need to get both the perspective, which I also did. I mean, some of my and then even some of my professional ex-bosses and some of my bosses who are today actually my investors, Anjali, I mean, they are perpetually negative. He will tell me 10 reasons why it will fail. But when I bounced those things and I mean, हाँ ये कर सकता है but ये भी थोड़ा देख ले. So those things started coming up, and it just helps you to build the blocks. And to answer your specific question, yes. So when I was about, okay, let me chuck it, and the job was very good. I was with Johnson and Johnson, and well-paying job. In fact, they were telling me to get into an international assignment. But I told my boss, and he's more like my mentor, that if it doesn't work out after 18 months, I'll call you up. I need a job back. So that was something which probably gave me the comfort. But I think those conversations with your near and dear ones finally helps you to take the plunge.
Yeah. Yeah, Dheeraj, you were in this space for a long time, right? When did you shift?
So, again, having a conversation with your industry colleagues, seniors, discussing the idea and getting the point of view, and actually, getting encouragement from them, to start exploring this idea and to actually take it up full time was one trigger for me. And, personally, once I had achieved a certain level of, financial freedom myself, personally allowed me to take the plunge. Because again, when you're starting a business, you do hope to raise funds and external capital, but not everybody is successful in raising capital as well. And if during your journey, what I've realized is that if you think that 1 year of runway is enough for you to survive, you have to double that. Because, financial projections are financial projections. In my opinion, models always overestimate revenues or underestimate costs. So you do need to have a certain level of revenue, and obviously as a founder, if you're investing your own equity, you do need to have that comfort as well. That even if you're not able to, because you can't just start a business and just depending on external funding. If you're really serious about it, then you will have to make sure that you'll have to manage through your own funds as well. So that gave me that was
Great set of points. I think some encouraging feedback, some devil's advocates, which is also realism actually, because some of it is true in some sense. And of course, some amount of planning in terms of what it will take for you to sustain through that period. So building a model and all of that. So let's look at this. When you actually start walking that path, I'm sure you all found a lot of challenges, but talk to us about the biggest challenge that you face that almost forced you to rethink, am I even doing this right? And how did you overcome that?
Okay, let me take this first. Yes, I think challenge will be the closest friend which any entrepreneur will have. I mean, you will have challenge day in and day out. There's not a single day where you will not find some kind of a new problem, a new challenge. But honestly, for me, it's been 7.5 years. I never really thought that, okay, what the hell am I doing? That moment has thankfully never come. But yes, one moment which definitely shook the entire world and shook me and my business was when COVID hit and when lockdown happened overnight. And in a business like ours, which was predominantly offline and with all dining happening, well, delivery was there, but it was predominantly offline business and all your stores are shut overnight. That was like a really a shaking moment for us. So it took me a few days to kind of just absorb and think through that, okay, what is going to happen. And not just about the business or sales or revenue numbers, but even then, I mean, you have staff and the families of the staff are finally dependent on you. So it's like it's a very, very complicated situation. But once you just think through those, just zoom out and think, and as you're locked up at home, you can't really go out. At home, when you just think and have those detailed chats with your co-founders, I mean, I realized that, okay, even on those first 1 week of the lockdown, people are still ordering from where delivery is allowed, which means that, okay, people, even in the darkest hour, there are consumers who are believing in the brand. I think that gave me that eureka moment of that confidence. Okay, yes, this too shall pass. Let's figure out a way to pivot the model from a delivery, more from a cloud kitchen, and then see how it spans out. So that was there. So that was one moment where it was like an existential crisis for the industry, for my business also. But once you think through and you get those initial positive vibes from some of your loyal customers, that helped me. Okay, then a small virus cannot decide whether I become a successful entrepreneur or whether an Antifunks will become a pan-India brand or not.
Big thing to say, Shubhradeep. Also, somewhere you might have felt you have come so far. Why surrender now?
Exactly. I mean, that's what I said. I mean,
not surrendering also keeps you going.
Correct?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Winning is also about not quitting. That's the fundamental rule of life. So, and that's saying, I mean, a virus cannot decide whether Antifunks will become big or not.
Well said, well said. Winning is about not quitting. Great. Yes. Anisha.
Yeah, I think, for us, the biggest challenge that sort of still remains is data. We operate in a space wherein there hasn't been a lot of data to be proven. The big fours haven't really put out a report on how big of a market size language curry is. Although we knew that this would be a challenge, but we thought that once we kind of have a great product and maybe investors would be sort of look at it from that aspect. But no, like market size has been, or market sizing, because there was no data available, we literally sized our different the different target segments. We sized them all ourselves. took out our old market research textbooks to see the different ways of doing that. Some of the data, even at the very basic level, wasn't existing. So we ran we ran some Google campaigns to see what impressions we get. So then we extrapolated that to kind of produce a bigger market size basis results that. So there, for us, data has been a big challenge because we are in that sort of a market right now. But uh, what really, helped us throughout this, because it is still a challenge. Investors still challenge us on how big the market is, on the monetization, etc. But what really actually personally pulls me across is, getting the feedback from customers. So when our learners, send us feedback on how they've been, greatly, satisfied and really wanting to learn a language, and this has really helped. That really puts things in perspective in my mind that, no, I'm doing a good job. There are people who are learning and continue to do this, and you will see the light of the day for that respect. So for me, that personally helps me pass a lot of these challenges that you face from an investor / market perspective.
Great. Dheeraj?
So, one particular incident for us was really, really challenging. Initially, when we started operations, started operations right in the middle of lockdown. So, initially, attracting team members and recruiting was, as a startup was challenging for us, especially in the financial services industry. A lot of layoffs were happening at that point in time. So initially, recruitment was a challenge. Then after a few months, when we started, we developed a sales team. We trained them. We started getting traction, and we started generating revenues. One particular day, our entire sales team was poached by a bigger competitor. So overnight, we went from a certain level of sales back to zero, which was, very, very shocking to me, particularly because we very, very worked hard to create our niche and to start generating revenue quite early in our journey and grow that revenue as well. So overnight we fell back to zero, which was shock to my system, and again I had to go back to why I really started this and had to develop that belief again to start from virtually zero again.
Also, Dheeraj, one brighter side of this thing was that your model was validated by your competition.
Exactly. So
They were also worried about your success.
So the common thread really is that there was validation from customers and from the market. And I think that kind of helped you surmount the challenge. That's what I heard all three of you say. And I think that's what reinforces your belief in the model and helps you overcome whatever challenge it is you're facing and rise above that. So in this set of trials and tribulations that you have faced, I'm sure it called for you to dig deep into your own reservoir of resilience and persistence and commitment, because it does take a lot personally from the founder. And I've seen enough founders who've been able to do that, and enough who've not been able to do that as well, and therefore have even called it quits, and many do. So would you like to share a little bit about the kind of inner strength it took for you to stand this test and emerge on the other side? So even anything about mental or emotional grit or whatever it is that you have, been able to, pull out from yourself.
I think so. This is the grit or the inner strength is the single most important virtue that every founder needs to have, and it comes. I think that is the outcome of the unending faith that you have in your vision. So if you genuinely believe in the vision, and you should have unending faith in that. Whoever your near and dear ones, even if Jeff Bezos comes and tells you that, okay, this is going to miserably fail, I mean, you should not get bogged down by that. And so unending faith in that thing, that passion will drive that inner strength. Because it's, as you rightly said, one is it's a lonely journey, and it's a long-term journey. I mean, you don't know how long is the tunnel. Yes, there is light at the end of the tunnel, but how long the tunnel is. So, I mean, You will see your friends posting in Paris in front of Eiffel Tower. You're thinking that from Bangalore, can I take a day out to Mysore? Or should I? So these are actual practical things which you face day in and day out. But if you have that faith, okay, and for that you need to postpone your personal gratifications for the good of the company. So
Yeah.
that's the other very, very critical thing. So, but once you have that passion and that faith in what you are trying to build, everything else can be handled.
Sure. Do you want to add to that, Dheeraj?
So, passion, faith, and belief is, paramount because it's a complete emotional roller coaster, to say the least. So one day, if you have, done good business, you feel like you're the best thing in the world, you're on the top of everything. The next day, you feel like, what am I doing? So if you have a bad day, you feel like, I had a nice cushy job. Maybe I should just go back. And these are all practical things which I guess every entrepreneur feels as well. So it's a journey of highs and lows. And, more importantly, apart from keeping the team motivated, because the team has to be motivated every day in order for you to hit your targets, you have to continually motivate yourself as well, which I think is more important. So complete roller coaster, and I'm sure Shubhadeep and Anisha will share
Yeah,
this with me as well.
it is a roller coaster, and I think you've got to find it in you. Either it comes from your passion or it comes from your belief, or all of that. So let's talk customers. When you're building a solution, what do you keep in mind? I mean, tech or no tech, there will be some fundamentals required to achieve product market fit, right? And importance of customer validation cannot be undermined, right? So how did you arrive at that, and how many times did you have to pivot or learn in order to fine tune your initial consumer idea? Let's start with Dheeraj this time.
So, Anjali, so throughout my years of professional experience, I was quite aware of where the problem existed and what gaps we should target. But again, theory and practical execution is completely different, especially say when you're going as a completely unknown company vis-a-vis say other established bigger players in the market in a product where trust is very, very crucial. So we operate typically in a B2B2C sort of a environment where we distribute various financial products to other distributors and agents who work on our behalf as well. So initially establishing that trust was very, very important. And again, we identified some pain points which we could address, and we communicated those to our partners really, really well. But again, you have to deliver on what you promise to them as well, and do it consistently, not just for a month, but over a period of time. So you have to develop your value hypothesis. And again, why should somebody adopt your service or pay for your service as well? Accordingly, you have to start defining the features of your MVP and develop your MVP from that perspective. After developing your MVP, you have to test it really, really well with actual users and get their feedback to go back to your original hypothesis whether this is working or not. Once you have customer validation in terms of adoption of your product, where you start generating revenues, then you have a very, very solid base of developing your MVP into a full-time product as well. But ultimately, customer validation is paramount, because from my perspective, the number one thing that I focused on from day one was revenue generation. That was my primary motivation, because if you have a certain amount of revenue flowing in every month, it keeps everybody motivated. So once you have money coming in, cash coming in, a lot of other problems can be taken care of, which can't be taken care of if you have nothing coming in. So that is one model that I adopted personally.
Yeah. So tell us how similar Anisha, how similar is your current product to what you started with, and how, as if has changed, what has that learning been like?
No, it has changed immensely. The look of how the app looks like, the content, etc. When we first started out, we started doing focus group interviews with a lot of our target segments. There were, expats, there were Indians who wanted to learn languages, and that's the first thing, for an app, a learning app, is to get the learner to feel like he's at the right place, and he will learn within the first 2 minutes of him looking at the app. So the first product iteration that we had great content, but the UI of the app wasn't just something that they would want to even look at the content. So it was a little slow. It was so yes, we also learned as we went that this is as important, if not more important, than the real content. So looking like, so that so we made the meat of the app, the content, looking at group base, like the user group users, and the interviews, and how they learn, are they learning well or not. And then the next phase, we actually saw whether they're engaging with the app, where are they clicking, are they even going past the first few chapters. And that's what made us do the next bit of iteration, which was more technical in nature.
The whole culture piece actually came in.
Yes.
I started as an experiment, but it became central to your idea, isn't it?
Yes, of course. So we always in our heart wanted to include culture, because while we were speaking to people, we realized that they're learning mostly for cultural reasons, and helping them connect to the culture while you're learning a language would help. But we were also not sure whether that would be a distraction. But when we started talking to people, they said they want to see more of it. So now in our app, there is plethora of culture on the homepage, in between chapters, as much as you would like. There are live courses as well, and it really has helped with the engagement. It definitely has. So yes, that was another learning. And this never stops, the learning never ever stops. So as the product grows, we keep learning, we keep improving. So really, there is no way out but to be customer centric with every aspect of whatever you're building.
Yeah. So I heard from both of you, it's a completely iterative process of constantly changing, evolving, learning, feedback. So correction loops, learning in correction loops. Yeah. Shubhra, you want to add anything to that?
No, I think both of them have covered. Yeah, I think for me, even the core consumer TG based on which you feel that you start the brand, that also evolves with time. That learning, I mean, for me, that was the case. I mean, I remember the first location when we started, I had a particular customer TG in mind. Okay, it had a huge undergrad university. We thought, okay, they will be the core TG, but it didn't play out as per plan. But it was the premium residential condos and a postgraduate college, which was sharing the wall with the other undergrad college. That became my core TG. And that, so those first 6 months, I figured it out that, okay, so then I think it is not that 18 to 22, it is actually that 25 to 35. So the future expansion started happening through that. So,
yeah.
so
you have to be remain open to learn from the market, because the opportunity
absolutely
you have to absorb. You actually forgot to mention the biggest pivot you did, which was you completely changed your model from a dine-in to a...
That was like a survival. No, but I think that was more like a survival thing with
the biggest pivot where you completely transformed. Anyhow, correct. So great. We've talked about learning and evolving, but in all of this process, how important is it to be coachable? So one is coachable from the market, but two is also be coachable from people like investors, advisors, mentors. There will be people who will believe in your idea and vision, and those that will give you feedback, which may not sound nice initially. It's not so easy to take, a lot of negative comments. But in the end, probably it does help in the path in terms of, just expanding the entire universe of ideas that you're working with. So how do you balance this whole mix of, your belief versus your flexibility, your belief in your idea versus remaining flexible to learn something new? So yeah, Shubhra, again, back to you.
Yes, no, I think this is the single most important thing. And irrespective of whether you're a funded startup where your investor is giving you an idea, or it's a bootstrap, but say a mentor is giving. Because one big problem which founders will always have is you are so sucked into your daily operations, you will not be able to get that ringside view. And lot of times, I think investors will be able to give you the big picture, the ringside view. So it is, yes, I may know everything about Pan-Asian food and Pan-Asian what's happening in this and all, but finally consumers are consumers. So a consumer or the marketing concepts for a Unilever and a P&G and an Auntie Funks and a language curry will be finally same. And that ringside view will always be given by the mentor or investor who are finally your genuine well-wishers. So coachability and open to feedback is a very, very important behavioral trait which entrepreneurs need to have. Yes, I know my business well, but I don't know everything. So before the customers react to that, it's good to listen to those mentors and investors. Finally, I'm sure even an investor is advising not to put you down. It's finally so that the startup flourishes. So coachability is a very, very important behavioral skill for the simple reason because we are so sucked into the inside the daily operational thing. Many a times we miss the ringside perspective. That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
Also, Subhradeep, one more thing that we see in founders is that they are so overconvinced of their idea that they are not willing to, or their mind does not allow them to listen to the other side of the story.
Yeah, I mean, see, there are no right or wrong in this. I mean, the classic example, like Steve Jobs was probably the most rigid founder the world has ever seen. So, but the problem is let's not try to be a Steve Jobs before building an Apple. So that's the thing.
If you're building an Apple, you can afford to be a Steve Jobs.
Yeah. but
exactly.
So I think, but you're right.
No,
but you're right,
I think even Steve Jobs had his, places and people to go. So I don't think he could have done it without those people as well.
He has a lot of negative feedback and actually enemies, if you will.
Correct.
Actually, Dheeraj, you've been through a whole lot of sessions where loads and loads of feedback was given to you, like literally every week, right? And we've seen you through that.
Exactly.
So how did you take it?
So I think, as others have mentioned, well, it's very, very important to be open, receptive, leave your ego at the door, listen to people who have more experience than you, not just say in your particular domain, but in other industries, because, a lot of things can be implemented in your industry as well. Look at people who have done worked in other functions as well, because in the early stages of your startup, you'll be doing everything, but you won't be good at everything. So it's always open. It's always important to be open to ideas, to listen to feedback, listen to experts, mentors, investors, etc. But one very, very important thing to remember is that you might get a lot of different points of view from different people as well. So no feedback will be the same. Even people in the same industry might give you different feedback. So as a founder who has actually taken the plunge, who has belief in your own idea, it is very, very important to see which idea will suit your startup the best. So that is a very, very important way to listen to feedback. Be prepared to listen to different sets of feedback from different people. But again, pick and choose. That is a call as an entrepreneur that you have to take, that what you wish to implement for your particular startup and for your particular company.
Right. Okay. Let's move to the next question. So, all of you have had at least one round of funding. So share with us what, in your opinion, it is that the investors expect to see from you before they put money on the table. Anisha?
Sure. So if you talk about the early rounds, it is first your early traction. It doesn't have to be in terms of numbers, like, it could be for us, we got our first round when we were around 15,000 downloads. So that's not a huge number, but to prove that, whatever you've done, people are liking it, people are, and then, the numbers are growing. So your certain metrics should be in line with, showing that this business will grow. So that is one. And then, of course, the first early rounds is always, usually done through connections, through your mentors, through people who have known you personally, and they've seen you as a person believing in that idea, and they've also seen you, you know and seen your career in the past, and how you've grown as a person, also professionally as well. So all of those things matter for the early rounds. So a great MVP doesn't have to have a traction of 1 million or 10 million, but something that proves that this is a beautiful product you've made and people like it, and then there's a potential to grow. And of course, your personal values and your personal rapport with your investors, and your story, I guess. The founder's story is very important.
Sure. Your why. Okay.
Yes.
Shubhra, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think in the initial rounds, finally, the investors are putting money on the founder and not that much on the business. Because one which we covered in the previous question is about the grit and the determination of the founder, whether how much skin in the game he has. I'm expecting the investor to put in 1 crore, but I have not even put 5 lakh. So it's not just about the sweat that the entrepreneur has put in, but yes, even has he put some amount of his own capital to run the show. So one is that, and second is the scalability of the idea. That's one thing which I think every equity investor will always look at. That is it a scalable model, and it has the future is more brighter than today. So I think that's very, very important.
Yeah, because investors are looking for returns, so they obviously want something that can become really large.
Hugely,
so post funding,
hugely
does life become simple? So I'm going to pose this to the two of you who've had more amount of time post capital. So what challenges have you seen post capital? Because expectations increase, and you learn a thing or two about financial prudence, because building a financial model and sustaining it, and giving returns and expectations and delivering on KPIs. What kind of a world and experience is that? It'd be interesting for new entrepreneurs to even know that part of the story.
Yes, I think that's very, very critical. Yes, for us, I mean, life totally changes once you get funded from an institutional investor. Because, and that's one piece of advice which I will give to all the entrepreneurs, that you can try and play around with your own money, do those trial and error thing to figure out the right recipe, the right model before you actually take institutional money, because it's a huge responsibility. And once so from the journey from boy to man starts happening when the institutional money comes in. And as you rightly mentioned, Anjali, financial prudence. So the first function that needs to take up real good shape probably is the entire finance function, that, and how is finance driving business decisions. So a lot of time, because overnight from a startup you need to start thinking as an enterprise. You are no longer a startup in a garage. You'll have to start thinking that, yes, keep the OPEX like a garage, but you'll have to start behaving like an enterprise. So build those matrices, build those KPIs, that every core function of the business gets measured and tracked. So a lot of work then starts going on the back-end planning and back-end operations, and growth ambitions then drastically increases. So that's the other bit which founders need to be mentally prepared, that yes, when I get the institutional money, the equity money, you've given a part of your body for the, it's like that. So then your growth ambitions, it cannot be 20%, 30% year on year. So it has to be, am I doubling, am I tripling my revenues, and so on and so forth. So definitely life changes. So be very, very clear on, make those plans as much watertight as possible. Yes, there will still be a lot of leakages, but you'll have to think through end to end before the institutional money comes in.
Anisha, you want to add anything to that?
I think Shubhradeep said most of it, but of course, as it's like he said, focus on the financial prudence and measuring, what you planned. Of course, real life is not as beautiful as your business plan look like. And there will be a lot of hiccups along the way. There will be things that will be a hit, and most likely there will be a lot of things that will be a miss as well. But at that stage, being transparent and communicating honestly what has gone right, what has gone wrong, and then again coming back to being open to feedback and pivoting and talking to your mentors, hashing out your business plan is a must. So of course, like you are responsible. A part of your company is now being valued by some others, but at the same time, if you look at it, there are these set of people who are also helping you in your journey. So if you look at that respect as well, the connections and the knowledge that the investors will bring in is immense. So that is a huge huge source of knowledge, inspiration for all of us.
Yeah, I think accountability is a very big thing, because
Yes.
you become accountable for a whole lot of stuff. And it's when you take somebody's money, one, you need to give return, but two, also show the growth that they're expecting, and show not just top line, but also bottom line objectives. Even if you're burning, it's all right, but are you controlling the burn to a certain level, whatever the targets are? But and especially given today's scenario and the environment that we're in, where capital is not freely available as much as it was till about a year back. And also, I think investors are so much more cautious in terms of looking at the looking very tightly at the models, the financial models per se, to say what is it that they will really put their money behind. So I think this is an absolutely important learning to have.
Yeah, I had one question, in fact, to all of you. Founders think that they know everything about it. Their idea is the best and they know how to do it. And the only hurdle between the founder and the success is the funding. So just give us the funding and we will do it. Do you really feel that between a founder and success is the funding only thing that is required, or there is more than that?
Actually, that's so true. Most startups that come to us say, "Bas funding hi to chahiye. Mere paas idea de, paisa de do bas ab. Ho gaya."
Not at all. I think that's what I said, I think sometime back, that skin in the game. And unless you bootstrap for a few years, you will not go through the pain and the grind and everything. I mean, just to incorporate a company, when you go to the ROC office and do multiple rounds, you'll get the first-hand experience, right? And so, if any founder is saying that the only the delta is between my idea and the success is the money, I think that's a definite recipe for disaster. So money, yes, instead of, and not just that, even people will say, I need 1 crore. But okay, why 1 crore? Maybe you take 5 lakh and do 20% of what you have planned. Can do, no, mera idea tabhi hoga jab mujhe 1 crore milega. So then also there's an issue. So money alone cannot be, I think the best of ideas have actually happened when there is scarcity of resources, and capital is one of the resources, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just to add to that, having an idea and executing that idea are completely different animals. So even if you have a average idea, but your execution capabilities are brilliant, you create a very, very successful company. But a brilliant idea without zero execution, will lead you to, so as we've seen recently, startups who've been heavily funded, they're still not been able to achieve their product market fit properly. So, having funding is no guarantee of whether you eventually turn profitable or, return something to the investors. Because, recently a lot of companies who've raised huge rounds have actually shut shop recently as well. So, capital is, of course, fuel which has to be used in the right way, but you see a lot of businesses which have been bootstrapped and have grown into tremendous value creating businesses as well. So it is important, but it's not, say, essential. You can have a very, very successful company even if you're a bootstrap startup as well.
No, you're right. I think Dheeraj, you've made a very valid point, and I think Mr. Narayan Murthy says that day in and day out that it's 95% execution and 5% idea. So
Absolutely.
he said that multiple times.
Yeah,
So
but initially when the founders approach, they think that they have 95% ready with them, and the 5%
Will come with the money.
will come with the money.
money kar dega.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true. So most founders, when they approach idea stage, and that's why we're talking, that is because in the accelerator, that's largely the stage that most people come to us, though we also have something called a growth stage idea where people learn how to scale. But we realize most founders are in a hurry. I want to build fast and get there quickly. In 1 year I'll do this and that, which is a good thing. I mean, ambition is a great thing, but there could be pitfalls of scaling either too fast or too slow, right? How do you draw a fine balance? And it'd be nice if you can share with an example that you did something too fast, too ahead of the time, and you realize, maybe I would have taken time, or the right time was right, but I became slow and I learned that I needed to speed that up. So just give a sense of, how do you really time your speed, your acceleration of decisions or actions? Who's going to start? Anisha?
Sure. So, for us, I think one thing that went very well was, the downloads. We got to, we've just touched 2 million downloads. So the pace has been awesome. The CAC has been low. So in that respect, we can keep going on, and it'll be, we'll have millions of downloads coming up, of course, with with a marketing budget. But over the course of months, analyzing our data, looking at our learners, we realized that there are these set of, that these downloads are amazing, but then there are only a certain set of people who actually learn seriously, right? And those are the people who actually will help us grow the brand, pay for the learning modules. So we had to scale down on just getting downloads, and also looking at the target segments out of those 100 downloads that come in. What are those percentage of people who actually look at and keep the app on their phone and actually learn seriously and focus on them? So sometimes, the top line numbers can be very encouraging and you're going at a great pace. But looking down and, always keeping in mind your KPIs and, looking at how those top line are actually helping you build a stronger and a stronger company with the revenue. So that is very important. So that would be my take on, scaling too fast and finding a pace. I think it's always looking at what is important to you as a company at that point in time, and then kind of fixing your pace.
I got it. So I think what you're saying is that you had an absolutely great acquisition model and at an efficient CAC. But if that's not contributing to revenue, there's no point really going hum-dum about it and actually scaling down and saying, first, let me build this piece because this alone is not going to help me survive. So I think great example. Thanks. Yes, Shubhradeep, you have something you want to share on this?
Yes. So I think for us, obviously, you have to scale fast, but how fast? That's the game. And then obviously you benchmark with other peers in the industry, but it's also a function of how much capital you have in the bank. But yes, for us, I mean, I was always clear that, okay, I know there are brands who will probably grow at 5x, 6x, and especially once you take external money, then many a times people kind of democratize it that, okay, other startups are growing, tech startups are growing at 10x, why can't you grow? So then you have to benchmark it. Okay, how is the industry, your peer group growing? Like for us, we've said that, okay, whatever we have to grow year on year, say doubling our business. But then a doubling is like a bare minimum. But then, but what Anisha just now mentioned, that is it just growing, just acquiring customers, but my repeats are coming down, or probably I'm just giving additional discount to acquire that order, but it's not making sense from a bottom line standpoint, then you scale down. Or also another thing, if you scale fast in our business, because see, the product quality is going down, the food is not consistent in all the stores. So it has to be a balance of these 4 or 5 parameters based on which you decide your own growth rate, and keep it ambitious, but it should not be too over ambitious. And the other thing, whether if you are growing too slow, the only vibe that you will get that, okay, is if you are comfortable with what you're doing, which means you are growing slow. As founders, you cannot be,
You have
okay,
to
I'm reasonably comfortable with what I want, with the way things are happening. Then, which means you've taken your goals and ambitions are less. So
Sure.
that should be the case.
It's always very what should I say, addictive to do quick marketing spends and start seeing the top line roll, right? It's that can be addictive, but sometimes
that
you
gives
hold
you a
your
high.
horses and say, I can't do that right now, and you've been
Correct.
through a phase like that a while back.
Yeah. Correct.
Dheeraj, any learning on this side?
So, if you're growing fast in one market, you feel that you can capture all the other markets as well. You might enter into a market where you've not done proper research. You hire the wrong set of people who are not, won't be good long-term employees, and eventually you'll end up burning a lot of resources because, every market is different. So you have to do your proper market research before you enter into a new market. Otherwise, you can end up spending a lot of wasting a lot of valuable resources in this new market, along with hiring not the right set of people who won't be good for you in the long term, just to support that growth that you achieved in the short period of time. You might introduce newer ideas, which newer ideas which sidetrack you from your original idea, and make you lose your focus on the original hypothesis of why you started the company as well. So again, you have to be wary of what the ideal growth rate for you is, and if you're going too slowly, sometimes employees start getting discouraged. This company is not doing enough. What am I doing in this company, etc., etc. And obviously, you might not get enough investor interest as well if you're not doing as per industry standards or fast enough. So again, it's a very very fine balance that one has to strike.
I know, as they say, if you have to become a founder, you must know your why you're doing this, and the what. Obviously, what is it that you're building? The when, because timing is a very, very critical part of it. The where, meaning where are you operating? I mean, for instance, some of you are operating in a certain geography or wherever else that you choose to do. I mean, some actually, all three of you are in completely different geographies. And obviously, those are choices that you've made. And of course, also the how, which is exactly how the model will play out. So there's just so many different decisions to be made. And I think anybody who's thinking or walking this path should think that through very, very well. What is my why, my what, my when, my how, my where, and my when? And when you're clearer, you start walking the path. Of course, you will still learn and you will still change a whole lot of things. But yes, belief and passion in your original idea is what is going to help you succeed. I think those are some very key things that I'm taking away from here. Before we end, I just have
and only when you find right answers to all your questions can your business be a fundable business. Otherwise it will just remain a startup idea and not be a fundable business.
So I can't go away without asking Dheeraj this one question, of course, and which is the one last piece of advice that Anisha, Shubhadeep, you may want to give to founders. But to you, Dheeraj, how did the FI experience help you fine tune your idea in terms of taking it to market?
So actually, Anjali, it was a great experience, lasting over 4 to 5 months. What I liked about FI was how practical and structured the whole program was. So initially, it's tough to stick to the assignments that are given on a weekly basis. But the program is structured in such a way that if you do that, eventually you will, develop a business which can be developed into a fundable business as well. So the program is structured in that way. It's a very, very practical program. All the mentors, all the directors, they give you practical advice and not just, theory. And but it is for entrepreneurs who are very, very serious about taking this plunge. You cannot do this program just as a hobby because it doesn't serve any purpose. It's a very, very serious, say, professional sort of a program. And but again, the support system is there that once you keep up with your side of the bargain, there are awards for your effort in the end as well. As my story has proven. So again, but be serious about the program. Very, very structured program, very professional program, and definitely worth the rewards in the end. But if you do put in your, the efforts, and if you keep up to your side of the bargain as well.
Right. Thanks, Dheeraj, for saying this. Really means a lot to us. And we hope a lot more founders will go through similar and better experiences with Founder. So, any last piece of advice, Shubhadeep or Anisha, you want to give before we wrap up?
I think do your homework, but don't overthink. Take the plunge. And that's what I would say.
Good.
Because there's never a right time. I mean, whatever you say, there will always be. I mean, it's you can't have a fully baked cake and then hope to eat it. So it's always a work in progress.
Yeah, because if you get a fully baked cake, then somebody else will eat it.
Correct.
So I think my piece of advice is also around accelerator programs, because I totally recommend founders to join an accelerator program, because at the early stage you would probably be alone or with a very small team, and the kind of vision and the kind of mentorship that you get at these programs really helps you solidify your business plan, and it helps you prioritize what are the key steps you're going to take in the next certain time frame for your MVP or for your first funding round. And a lot of these mentors actually look at your journey, get to know you personally, and will help you along your startup journey, which is not only limited for the program's duration. So it will most probably last a lifetime. So that really helps you.
That's very prudent advice. So thank you so much for that. I think it's been an absolute pleasure to speak with all of you. And I'm sure the words that you've spoken here today, the experiences you've shared, will inspire founders who are waiting to take that plunge and raring to get into this journey, hopefully to fulfill their dreams and ambitions. So thanks for joining today. I'm sure you've enjoyed this conversation. I've enjoyed it thoroughly. Let me also remind, of course, I need to say this, and even for the recording to keep it, let me remind you that applications for the New Delhi cohort are now open. The cohort is actually going to be very diverse and interesting, as we are creating affiliates in multiple Indian cities like Bangalore and Hyderabad, and also in neighboring countries of Nepal, Myanmar, and Bangladesh this time. Bhutan. So if you are a would-be startup founder at a concept stage or early stages of build, wondering how to take the idea forward and convert that into a business model, please log into fi.co and register yourself. We will be happy to speak to you on a one-on-one basis. Please feel free to reach out to me or Mr. Gupta for any questions that you may have. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much once again, and for your time. And goodbye. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Thank you all the panelists.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Take care.
It was a pleasure to see you all and have this chat. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Take care. Good night.